By the way, I want to say welcome to the most important session of the A&P conference. At least it's important to me, but we have a good interactive session planned for you, and it's brought to you by the part-time committee. So my wonderful colleagues on the committee are David Milroy and Raymond Brennan. He's not here, I don't think, today. And along with Terry Patine, Dana De Mercurio, and Deirdre Franchek, who are also our speakers today and will say their last names much better than I just did when they introduced themselves. I know first names quite well, but last names I may not have said well, so sorry about that. So the session will go like this. We'll have a brief one-question poll. Then our speakers will each take a few minutes to share a success at their college that pertains to part-time faculty. So at their college or district, and then we'll have an interactive discussion as a group about 3 top issues concerning part-time faculty. So when you see the poll, those are the issues we're going to cover. But the poll asks you, which one's the more important for you. But those issues we'll talk about today. Then we'll do a wrap up and look at next steps and things we can do on a local level and statewide. You probably heard all the little reminders to please stay on mute until you'll be speaking. And this isn't a huge group, which is nice. I was hoping we'd get more than just the committee, so that's good. I love my committee, but I've been discussing with them for a while now, so thank you for joining us. It's nice because this is manageable. I think everybody will be able to share their ideas if you feel so like you would like to do that. So again, stay on mute, use the chat sparingly, and keep it on track with the subject that's discussed. That said, I'll keep an eye on it, and if there's questions or there's some issue on there that we need to get to still cover. So I do want to also recognize, I think Stephanie's still with us. Lydia isn't, but we've all heard about Lydia, the wonderful Lydia. Stephanie is our wonderful Stephanie, and she's our staff person for this session. And I think we're going to pull up the poll. There she is. Yeah. Speaking of backgrounds, I took mine off because I find that when I move on some of these backgrounds, like my hair goes every which way and it's kind of distracting. I don't know. So yours looks good, Stephanie.
The poll, Sally, the poll is in the chat. Sorry to interrupt. The poll is in the chat.
Sorry.
I didn't know if you saw that. That's where Stephanie put it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yes. So the poll or SurveyMonkey, which one do they go to?
It goes to SurveyMonkey.
Okay, because it says
we go there now.
Okay.
Yes, please go there now. I'll get the receipts or the answers in my inbox shortly.
Okay, great. So go ahead and click on that. It won't take long. We just spend a moment on that. I don't know if, as a host, I don't think I can take it, can I? Oh yeah, I can. Okay.
Where'd you guys go? I lost you.
Don't forget to click done when you're done.
Now, Stephanie, there's 2 of them here, but they look identical.
They're the same. I just wanted to make sure you all saw it.
I just didn't want to be ignoring something.
No, just trying to confuse you.
We don't want voter fraud here.
And what I'd like to do, I don't know if Stephanie, can you just hang on to the results until just a little bit later? Okay, so I'm going to keep you guys on edge to see, but we'll go right into our speakers, and then we'll come back to this poll and do a discussion. So we have 3 speakers, their shared successes, and they'll spend about 3 to 4 minutes each on their particular success. And I'll let them go into exactly what it is, but Laurel is going to go first, and she has an interesting model for addressing full-time overload. Dana will go after that, and she has an example of a great part-time inclusion and equity. And Deirdre will bring it all together with some contract language for reassignment rights. So without further ado, and by the way, Stephanie, are we recording this, and should I be doing it or are you? Okay. being recorded. Great.
We're
thank you.
recording it, and I'm recording it, so you don't need to
Thank
worry
you.
about anything.
Oh, boy. I'm going to go get a cocktail then. All right. Laurel, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Sally. First of all, my name's Laurel Hartley. I'm from Butte College. We're one of the colleges that, if you've been through the budget session, we're one of the ones that have had a number of disasters, and our entire schedule for how we teach classes has really been downsized. At its height, we had 10,600 students, and our schedule reflected that. As of right now, we're down to 7,300. So we have taken a tremendous hit. What that means is that a lot of part-time faculty, of course, are not teaching. And as the union treasurer, we're working diligently trying to help a lot of those faculty. But when it comes to overloads, and I realize a lot of colleges are having problems with the full-time faculty on overloads, one of the biggest allies that we have at Butte College is the full-time faculty. One of the things that's been required with the COVID and everything is that all the full-time faculty must teach 5 classes. Even our department chairs are back in the classroom. A lot of their duties and responsibilities have been moved upstairs to deans, and they work with the deans. But the thing is that we have a few departments that, and I should say it's like 2 different departments that have no associate faculty. And so consequently, those areas usually are the only ones that have overloads. One of the things that by contract, the full-time faculty, the only time they can do an overload is fall and spring. And with everybody on deck that's teaching 5 classes, there's no time for them to be doing overloads. One of the things that the part-time faculty brought to the forefront was the fact that if you have someone teaching an overload in summer or winter, you're paying for 2 people. You're paying the full-time faculty, but then you're also paying for the unemployment for that part-time faculty person. And that's where now all of the classes, with the exception of these 2 departments, all of those classes are being taught summer and winter by part-time faculty. One of the things is that with the full-time faculty being our allies, they're not looking to actually pull any overload. In fact, many of them have agreed to a moratorium, if you will, on any overload. And if they have overload, they're banking. So, you know, I think that's the big thing is that if you can have your full-time faculty become your ally, I think that's one of the biggest things that you can use to rectify this.
Excellent. Thank you. I neglected to mention that one of the reasons why we as a committee came together and wanted to discuss some of the things that we're going to talk about today is because at the part-time faculty symposium, one of the messages was bringing allies on board. And so it's really important to, whether it's students or faculty or board of trustees. So thank you, Laurel. And we have next is Dana. Did I say your name right, Dana, by the way, your last name?
No, but that's all right. That's okay. It's a hard one. So I'm Dana DiMercurio, and I teach predominantly at San Joaquin Delta College in Stockton, but I also teach within the Los Rios Community College District and also Sierra College in Rockland and in a community college in Michigan. So I'm very much all over the place during this pandemic. Some things that I'd like to share with you that have been really great, especially at San Joaquin Delta College, which is my predominant college. 2 things that we were able to achieve over the past couple of years is parity. Parity was written into the part-timers contract. That was back, I think, in about 2017, maybe a little bit earlier. And that is because part-timers do not have, and that's something we're still working on, is part-timers do not get office hour pay, but parity pay is actually pretty good. And we are very excited to have had that. We get a one-time lump sum payment. If you've taught in the fall and spring semesters, you get paid in the summer semester one lump sum of money. And so that has been very beneficial for many adjunct. And there's also, if you're unfamiliar with AB 1269, which is being put out right now for the legislation to look at through Christina Garcia, Assemblywoman, is a parity bill, a statewide parity bill, so that adjuncts can finally get equity when it comes to their pay. So Delta College is on top of that, at least. So that's something really great. Another thing that we were able to do in my wall-to-wall union is create separately for part-timers a part-time faculty issues committee that is put on by the union. It's a subcommittee, and our chairwoman is the VP of part-time issues. So she's our chair of that committee. I'm the secretary of that committee. And we are able to get funding to hold monthly open houses where part-timers are invited to attend. We talk about any grievances that people have regarding resources, regarding pay, regarding equity, regarding contract, regarding their load, what have you. And all of that information is given right back to the executive board, given right back to the union and discussed. So one of the things that we're talking about right now are seniority rights and rehire rights, and getting a valid list of adjunct names to know where we fall on our seniority list, to make sure that we are getting our correct load, that we're being offered our courses in the correct and timely manner in which we should. And so that's really causing a stir in our college, which is wonderful, and because it needs to be much more transparent. So we encourage our part-timers to come to our open houses and share any information that they have, and we just give it right back. And so hopefully some changes will come from that. So I encourage you to go back to your unions and create a separate committee just for part-timers to have open conversation and feel heard and validated with their concerns, especially during the pandemic.
Thank you, Dana. And by the way, we'll put the contact information into the chat. Perhaps you two can do that so far, Laurel and Dana, and same with Deirdre, so that in case we don't have time for questions directly to the three speakers, perhaps at the end, then you can contact them, because I'm already taking notes and thinking, oh, I want to find out more about that. So thank you. And Deirdre, you're up.
Okay, thanks, Sally. So I'm Deirdre Franzak. Easier than it looks, Sally. And I teach at Santa Rosa Junior College. I teach in the philosophy department, and this is about my 16th year there as a part-time faculty. And I've also taught at Contra Costa and Porterville. What's the district down there? Bakersfield, something like that. Kern County district. So one of our accomplishments at Santa Rosa Junior College has been Article 16, which is the rehire reassignment rights clause for hourly assignments. And we negotiated this about 3 years ago. We're at the end of a 3-year contract. It's going to have to be updated because there have been some changes and likely to be some more changes in the legislation, God willing. But regardless, it has really been provided a lot of protections for the part-timers. And essentially we create, so I'm jealous of Dana, who actually has parity. We don't have full parity. We are still something like 76% of full-time. And if you took out all the extra stuff that the contract faculty have to do, that we should be at about 84, 85%, but we're not, we're at like 76%. So that's our next thing on the agenda, is to work on parity issues. We do, like you, we have a wall-to-wall contract. And so our salaries are linked to the full-time salaries. Now that's been controversial, but in the end of the day, I am persuaded that it really has worked out quite well, because it is not in anybody's interest to negotiate against another group. If the full-time faculty are negotiating for salary raises or for benefits that affect working conditions and so forth, those automatically affect adjunct faculty. So we've really benefited from that. I have a few slides, and I will try to do this, like, I know I have 3 minutes, so I'm going to be really quick here, but I just wanted to make, because it's a little complicated, so I wanted to make sure I didn't mess up here. forgive me. So
Deirdre, while you do that really quick, can Sally or whoever is hosting open up the chat so that we can all chat with each
We're
other?
we're actually trying to do that.
Okay,
We're
thanks,
having an
Stephanie.
issue with all the rooms where it's not opening. So it's
okay,
not just this one.
Okay. So let me be really quick here. So Article 16 reassignment rights. So hourly assignments or anything paid on an hourly basis, that means both adjunct and overload, obviously. Summer session contract faculty overload constitute hourly assignments. So here's some legalese. By the way, this article is 11 pages long. I condensed it to about 9 slides, so bear with me. But 1 week before they announce the schedule, the VPAA must email all faculty to say, here's where you stand on the length of service list. The length of service list is defined by your date of hire. So you can see where you are with regard to everybody else in your department. And then department chairs must email all faculty to request their preferences for semester assignments. Hourly assignments are made by the department based on where you stand on the length of service list. So how do you get on the length of service list? Obviously regular contract faculty. Probationary faculty, that's tenure track, but they don't yet have tenure. Adjunct faculty who've been there at least 6 years, who've had satisfactory ratings throughout that time, unless they've had a break in service that results in you're no longer in our pool and you go back to the bottom of the list again. So who's eligible for an hourly load? Adjuncts with offer rights, who've gone through the probationary period of 6 semesters, plus contract faculty, regular faculty with a satisfactory rating are eligible for overload as an hourly assignment. They're part of this Article 16 group. Plus, all retired faculty retain their eligibility and full position on the length of service list after that required break where they can't teach due to state CalSTRS regulations. So how do you get an assignment? Your position on the length of service list plus what we call your established load. This load is separately defined for each semester. So I have an established load for the fall and I have an established load for the spring. It's the same every fall and every spring. I can't lose it. And it's determined by the highest number of units successfully taught. At the time we negotiated it, we used a benchmark year that was a pretty high year within like the previous 2 years because they had fallen a little bit. For example, if I taught 40% in the fall and 60% in the spring in my benchmark year, I'd have an established load of 40 for every successive fall and 60 for every successive fall forever, unless we'll get to that in a minute. It can go up. It can never go down. So for adjunct faculty, the maximum is defined by Ed Code, obviously at 67%. If and when that gets changed, this whole thing is going to have to be renegotiated. Who's allowed to go to the higher 85% or whatever? That needs to be worked out. For contract faculty, if you're on an overload, you may never exceed 40%. Now, as Laurel said, it's an unwritten rule in many of our departments, but not all, that taking 40% overload is a no-no. And in some departments, mine included, taking any overload will put you on the shame list. I can think of at least one person who was a department chair who ended up resigning his position because of the email thread excoriating him for taking overload when adjuncts weren't getting their assigned load. So, okay, it's now time to assign courses. I'm the department chair. I do an initial allocation each semester in ranked order of where you are on the LOS. I'll give you up to 40%. If you have an established load of 20%, you get 20, you get one class. If you have an established load of 40%, you get up to 40% on this first pass. If I can't get quite 40%, as close as I can get, that it goes a little bit over. You're supposed to go over rather than under. Nobody can lose established load. So if I don't get my 40% because we don't have enough classes for the next 4 semesters, that doesn't matter. It's still 40%. That actually is the situation that I've been in the last year or so, as we cut a lot of classes. My established load is 60 and 60 for the 2 semesters. I haven't taught 60% in 2.5 years, but it doesn't go away. Once you get offer rights, if you have no established load, you'll get an initial offer of 20%. So you get an automatic established load. You've been here for 6 semesters. You've had great ratings. We have courses available. You get one course. If you have up to 40%, you'll get up to 40%. So I'm going through the first pass. Everybody who's got 40% gets their 40%. So if somebody is lower than me on the LOS list and they have 20%, too bad we didn't get to them. If there's extra load, everybody's gotten their established load. The department recommends in ranked order of length of service additional offers to anybody up to 67%. So once everybody's got their established load of 20 or 40%, and we still have some courses left, I can get my 60%. But that, if there's another adjunct who doesn't have their full established load, even if they just made assignment rights last year, they still are entitled to get their established load. So load performed in the first fall and spring semester when you have offer rights becomes your established load for that kind of a semester, for fall or for spring. It also applies to summer terms unless department procedures state otherwise. And that's like, I won't go into that. Department procedures can set up their own thing for summer. Established load can only be lost for cause or failure to teach in 3 successive semesters. So if I decide I want to take a break and I'm gone for fall and then spring and then the following summer, then I lose my established load and I go back to the bottom of the list. Okay, how did I do racing through that?
That was good. You went a little over 5 minutes, but that was still good because the other 2
But
were
it's-
under. So
But
we're
it's a
okay.
good protection for us, you know. It's not perfect, and there are things some people benefit, some people lose. But at the end of the day, it's not a bad system.
And if somebody would like access to those slides, they can contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me put my email in the chat.
Yeah, it looks
And
like the chat's working.
Deirdre, if you want us to post those, we can post those online with the other A&P slides. Just send them to me.
That'd be great. Sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great, thank you, all 3 of you. Thank you for giving us some successes. It's nice to have some good news, especially in the last year has been so challenging. It's any little nugget that we can take home and be able to present to our local areas is a good thing. So now it's going to be pretty much an open discussion. We'll brainstorm a bit. We're going to share the results of the poll, and then I have a few guiding questions, and we'll probably have about 12 minutes or so on each. Well, we may spend a little more on one topic than the other, but we have about 45 minutes or so before we wrap up. But Stephanie, can you pull up the poll?
I think
results?
Orny had a question as well.
I'm sorry?
Someone had a question.
Oh,
Oh, you're on mute, Orny.
Thank you. I don't have a question. I just want to say, if you want to see how other collective bargaining units were able to negotiate and get things for part-time faculty, John Gofsky's website, I think it's called Contingent World. The latest update he gave us is that he has all the collective bargaining contracts from 72 districts on his website. So you might want to go there and see what else people got so that you can fight for something better or the same.
yes, thank you for bringing that up. In fact, I was hoping John would be here, but we didn't catch him today. So thanks, Ornette. Let's see, so we'll put up, let's see, 2-tier. Okay, maybe we'll go in this order then. And that will be good because Stephanie's our legislative person. So it looks like 2-tier wins out. If you're not sure what that is, we'll discuss it. And then the part-time retirement issues and part-time legislation. Let's see if you can see the percentages there. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, my cat is old and he really likes to drink my water, so I have to keep hiding it. Okay, so thank you, Stephanie. Let's come back to is there another, Deb or Kathy?
Yeah, I just want to tailgate on Ornette's comment a moment ago. All the 3 faculty unions, CFT, CCCI, and that's a third one.
CCA.
Yeah, well, CCA's, yeah, thank you. They all have part-time committees and they all collect information about what's going on statewide. John Gofsky is with CFT, so whatever he finds, he shares with CFT. So there is a ton of information that's out there and for all of us to access, and depending on which union you belong to, but it's accessible. So, you know, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to let's just feed off each other the best practices and implement them across the board. That's my encouragement for everyone.
Yes, Ornette? Oh, you're on mute.
I'm just a soft-spoken immigrant woman. Okay, so
You're not
and-
soft-spoken. You were not soft-spoken. Give me a break. Since when?
okay. Well, I was supposed to be seen but not heard when I was growing up.
We like
Anyway,
to
so you know, I think one thing that would be a really good strategy as someone who represents, you know, 800, 900 faculty members at American River College, just one college, I represent that many people. I would say if you can get full-time faculty to be your ally, you know, because we can ask each other and we can say, hey, can we make an agreement not to take a number of FTE for an overload, or we can make an agreement in this difficult time, or we can make an agreement to do X and Y and Z for part-time faculty colleagues of ours. And I think if you can get allies, you know, in your union who are people who are full-time, or you can get someone in your department, I think that would be a really good strategy, because full-time faculty don't have to worry about not getting load. And I understand part-time faculty tell me they're not comfortable speaking up. They're concerned about indirect retaliation because you can't prove it, right? You just don't get a class and then you're gone. And so, and people, you know, say, you know, you can talk about office hours or healthcare, but if I don't have a job, I don't have an assignment, all bets are off. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, good point. That's part of this whole idea of collective power here.
Another
So
reason
let's
to
get
abolish the two-tier
I'm sorry,
system.
what was that, Dana?
I was gonna say another reason we could talk about abolishing the two-tier system.
Yes, yes, that good segue. So there's just keep a few things in mind, but I really like a free flowing kind of thing here. So keep these ideas in mind. So we want to make sure people know what the problem is. I think, and if not, perhaps Dana or somebody can explain a little bit what the two-tier system is. But so we want to know, what is the problem? We want to clarify the issue before we start discussing it. What do we want or need? You know, what's our solution or end result, or where are we trying to, and what is the end result that we'd like to see, and how do we get there? So ideas for steps forward. We're not going to, you know, create a whole new program right here within the next 40 minutes or so, but we can at least take some baby steps or big steps forward. And so what is the problem? What do we want or need? And how do we get there? With the two-tiered system, is there anyone here that can maybe just share in a couple of sentences what does it mean by the two-tier system? And okay, that's silence. Is anybody uncomfortable? David? Okay.
Well, I was going to say quite clearly, it's there are two groups. One group is the full-time tenured, and the other is the part-time. They have different rules. There's no connection between the two groups. What happens in one group doesn't necessarily happen in the other, and there is no automatic progression from one side to the other. It's blocked, two tiers forever. And a lot of people say, oh, if you've been teaching for 15 years, you must be full-time by now. That doesn't happen. So it's the fact that it's two separate groups that are treated extremely disparately. So
yes,
yeah.
Okay. So what do we want? Do we want to abolish that? Do we want to make it a bridge to it, or what do we want from this?
I think ideally we'd love to see that, you know, it's not so despairing. And something that we can probably do in the meantime is, with our allies being the full-time faculty, work on making inroads. Some of the things that we did at Butte College is the full-time faculty, they said, we don't want to be paid in flex hours for distance education training. We want you to pay us a dollar amount, and whatever you pay us, you will pay the part-time faculty per class the same. And they put their foot down, and that was it. And what was nice about that was the fact that, you know, we got paid for the training, we got paid for every class that we changed from face-to-face to online as well. We've got an increased amount of hours for office hours. A lot of the CARES money went into this. And, but basically, when you've got allies like the full-time faculty who understand that the only reason why they're able to do what they do, because there's a smaller group of them than there is the part-time faculty, then that's one of the ways in which they come to our aid, at least. And for us, we've got full-time faculty of not quite 160, and we have over 400 part-time faculty.
Oh, wow, that's way out of balance. And Doug had his physical hand up, and I forgot to mention, we can see everybody, so you can do one or the other, but it's helpful if you want to do the reactions and they get kind of lined up. And so we'll go to Doug, and then it looks like, I don't know if Oranit's hand is left over or if she has her hand up again, but Doug.
I have my hand up, but if someone wants to speak, I will share the airtime.
Okay, we'll go with Doug right now.
Well, thank you, Sally, and hello, everyone. It's been a while since I've been to one of these. We used to be on the part-time committee, 10 years of it, but it's so nice to see everyone getting together. And it's so nice to hear everyone talking about all of the hard work that they're putting in. Certainly, no one can say contingent faculty are the laziest, but usually the hardest working in any college because we're contingent. And I think David really settled that in his definition and quite succinctly. I mean, we're not really employees. We're simply add-on picked up at the, they drive by and say, hey, I can use a couple of laborers, jump in the back of the truck. I can give you 5 months of work, maybe, because, if I don't really need you, thanks for all your preparation, but looks like we didn't, have just enough people for you. So you don't have 20 people in your class. So bye, but thanks for the effort. Oh, by the way, there's no money in it for you. And now, with pandemic, all the costs that people are, the electricity and using your house and having your kids in or out of school. And they're there, my wife is an SEA for Mount Diablo Unified School District. My kids are in Mount Diablo Unified School District in high school, and I'm teaching online from home. So there are 4 of us on the bandwidth and 4 of us struggling not to be too loud right now. I'm sure my family is saying, you're too loud, Dad. But I think that one of the things I always try to remind people is, in the 72 plus of us, that no 2 districts are alike. And no 2 districts have the same contact, really. It's not like state colleges. And because of that, when I hear the differences, like I loved listening to the 16, that contract thing. In mine, it's 25. It's called preference staffing, not rehire. But it's still the same thing, and they're complicated because every time we try and help one group of part-timers, we're hurting another group of part-timers. And our part-timers aren't all in it for the same thing. Some only teach 1 or 2, some want a career, some want to be full-time, some like myself, I'm too old to be full-time, but, and some are retired full-time who are limited in how much they can do. And getting all of those part-timers to be the part-timers in a college is extraordinarily, chillingly difficult. In fact, sometimes it's easier to get the full-timers on board than the part-timers because something we want to do, like seniority, it hurts some part-time faculty and helps others. And so no matter what we do, it seems to hurt. Now, we are about to achieve parity if another, shoe drops, and maybe not, but we have a 3-year contract, and by the end of it, instead of paying by the hour, our part-timers will be paid by load, and they'll all be on one with the full-timers. So if a full-timer at this step in this column is getting X amount of dollars, you're going to get 85% of it, based on what was brought up earlier, which is the obligation, professional obligation. So I'm just sort of saying hello to everybody. I hope you're all doing well and dealing with this, although everybody seems to be focused enough on work that I don't see any major depressions, which I love. I'm a drama teacher, so you can imagine distance, but I've been teaching online for over 20 years. So I teach the academics as well as the hands-on acting and all of that. So I just wanted to say hello to everybody if you don't know me. Hello to you if you do know me, and it's good to see all of you. Hi, David, I see the way.
Yeah.
And it's good to see people I haven't seen in a while, and I just wanted to say hello and share some of that.
It's nice. Yes, it's nice to see you and have you back, Doug. It's great to have your voice in this. And it sounds like there's a couple things already that are part of our, how do we get there? We want to grab those allies, build the full-timers into this, and language in contracts. So Ornit, and then David.
David, would you like to go ahead first?
Oh, okay. I wanted to make a quick comment. I think it ties in well to the idea of obtaining this or eliminating the two-tier system. I enjoyed both Dana and Laurel's talking about working with the full-time faculty. And it's interesting also, Laurel is in a part-time local, and then there's a full-time union. So there's two different unions. And my experience in a wall-to-wall was that when we asked full-time faculty to maybe reconsider not taking overloads during the horrible economic crisis in 2007, 2008, we were almost thrown out of the Senate meeting and yelled and screamed at for taking the bread out of their mouths. And it was their right to take overload. And for part-time committees, we used to have a part-time committee, and the union canceled the open part-time committee, made it a closed secret committee with only people appointed by the president who never questioned anything. And so that is, I think we need to balance the great stories with some reality. Not everyone lives in the same reality. So part-time committees work in some places and they are banned in other places. So we want to remember that, we're not all coming from the same place. And so these are the full-time faculty that we're going to approach about eliminating the system that works really well for them and going to something that might not give them the benefit they have now. So it's going to be some heavy lifting.
Thank you, David. Ornit, and then I think Laurel had her hand up too.
Right. Yeah, thank you, David. I know that not all unions are the same, but I would say as someone who represents both full-time and part-time faculty, and more part-time faculty than full-time faculty, what I have always, say people should do is go to your union president, go to all those who represent you, become union members, because who else would be able to do it for you? And if you have part-time, full-time unions, that is the problem, because then administrators actually pitch you against each other. But full-time and part-time faculty should be together, not, saying you take a piece of my pie or I take a piece of your pie. And if you're in a district that has that situation, I feel for you. But if you're not in that situation, I would say become a union member, advocate nonstop. Tell your union president, even if you think they don't listen to you, put it in writing, organize, have a lot of part-time faculty, meet with the union. In my district, we have a part-time faculty caucus, which is organized and mostly run by Linda Sneed and Paul Baltimore. And they meet regularly and they get part-time faculty to attend meetings. They open their things to all faculty. And so again, I am sorry if you're in a district that part-time and full-time faculty have two unions, but if you're in a place that you can get you know, can have one union, then please, you know, tell your union what needs to happen again and again and again and again until it happens, and organize.
Yes, and to recognize again what David said is it might be something that you almost have to, well, that's what part of the statewide. When we talk about statewide, some of these things really they have to be at local, but maybe part of it is we statewide, we have to make some legislation so that these colleges that aren't behaving have some policy to guide them. Okay, Laurel, and then I want to say quickly, Terry, I don't know if I think I recognized you when I was talking about the committee, but I said Terry Patting. What is your full name, Terry? Which name do you go by?
It's Terry Patton Armbrust.
Okay, because I know even on the email it says something different, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Terry's on the committee too, so thank you. All right, so Laurel, and then other people that haven't spoken up, I'm not going to pressure you, but feel free to either physically raise your hand or put your little reactions hand up there. Laurel.
Well, basically what I wanted to say was with our full-time faculty having their own union, and our part-time faculty union is actually connected with UPTE and CWA. And what we've done is we've got 95% of the part-time faculty as members. Okay, so we're strong, and so is the full-time faculty. We have meetings that once a month we get together and we meet the two unions together to talk about different things that are going on that affect both sides of the house, so to speak. One of the things that we're going through right now, I'm an academic senator as well as part of curriculum, professional development, SLO. Excuse me, I'm on a lot of different committees. And one of the things is we're in the middle of changing the bylaws for our academic senate. And there's some contention. They want to give us one more. We've got 5 at large, but now they want to change it and give us a 6th. But they wanted to go by category, you know, or how we have our college set up. And the thing is that we've been at large all these years, and we're elected by ourselves. We elect who we want to have represent us. And, you know, it's being able to sit down and go, wait a minute, that's not going to work because this, and this. And we're able to do that. In our Senate. We're able to do that in curriculum. We're able to do that as far as even accreditation. We have stipends that we pay the part-time faculty to be involved in these committees. And, you know, the voice is important to everybody. So they make it important by providing really good stipends to making sure you have a participation. So
right.
I think that's one of the things that I wanted to get across was that, you know, it's more than just having them as allies. It's across the campus. We have a voice and people are listening to us because we've been there. We serve and they know it.
And along those lines in the chat, I've noticed too, is it's hard when you feel like you don't have power because some of us don't, or you're in a district like David's or other, so I'm sure empathize with it, where you're afraid to take maternity leave or speak out about something, or so we, as much as some of us are strong enough or been around long enough or kind of don't care what happens to us, we're just going to speak out. Most people aren't like that. So, and most districts probably are challenged in that way. So I think we need to move on to the next topic too, but I think we have a couple of ideas. I'm kind of depending on Stephanie a little bit to sort of consolidate these, and at the end we'll bring these together. But I think the discussion is healthy anyway, even if we don't come up with the winning lottery number for being a part-timer. So I'd like to move on to the second one that was number 2 in the popularity contest. And that was, David, if you're okay with that, we'll go to the retirement issues, the unfair regulations in STRS and Social Security. And yes, he's sharing his screen there.
There. Move. Okay. Get this all balance out. I came up with these after the last STIRS presentation as just 3 issues that I thought really impacted part-time faculty. The one is the final compensation, which is how they determine service credit. And I've spoken to a lot of part-time faculty who say, you know, I teach, 9 classes and I make all this money and it doesn't go to my final calculation. So it's like you work your brains out and you still don't make any more money. And that's because more work does not mean a bigger pension. It gives you more time. But one of the strangest things that we've all heard is that because of the weighted average of the pay at each college, it's possible that you can be at a college that has a lower pay rate, and STIRS will advise you to stop teaching there so that the calculation is higher when you retire. So earn less money because you'll make more money. And I'm not sure, that must be an application of some logic from full-time faculty, but for part-time faculty, telling someone who is working a lot or a regular load and telling them to stop teaching somewhere to help them, there's just something basically wrong with that. It seems like we need to have a part-time faculty law that clicks in and says, hey, if this is you, we have a new solution. The second thing I want to look at is the 180 days no work rule. So 180 days after you retire, you may not teach. If you do teach, you have all of your STIRS deducted from what you earn. So you have $1,500 a month from STIRS and you earn $1,800. They deduct that from your STIRS payment, so you get 0 for it until that's all paid back. Well, I mean, I look at it, full-time faculty retire with much higher, obviously, pensions than we do. So for a full-timer who's making $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month, not to teach, okay. But if you have a part-timer on a $1,000 or $1,200 or $1,500 a month retirement, and you thought, well, I'll retire early, not teach 3 classes, I'll just teach 1, and with my retirement, that'll make a comfortable living. But then you say, but you can't teach, then you're going down to just your STIRS, and that's an incredible hardship on someone who's spent their life having a low income, and now their low retirement is going to mess them up. So they'll say, okay, well, I can't retire because I can't afford not to have that income. So this would force part-timers to work longer than they would want to. And it seems to me there should be a ceiling for STIRS retirement of maybe $25,000 a year, under which you would still be allowed to teach, because it's just cruel to tell someone you must not earn a living during these 180 days. So those are the 2 ideas. And then of course, the last one is the weapon GPO, which we're already working on. They're working on HR 82 in Congress. And then we have a California joint resolution, which is going to have California asking Congress to pass this bill. So those are the 3 things under retirement that I thought we could talk about. There.
Yes, great. That's the problem. You clarified the issue, which actually opens a huge door, and I have so many questions. That's why I wanted David. He understands it much better. I'm only barely finding out the tip of the iceberg on all these things, and I need to find out more about the weighted part of it. It's just a whole new language and world for me, which I will be entering into at some point. I hope to retire someday. So open the floor. Sean, okay, Stephanie wants to say something. Vicky or Carol, is it Caroline or Caroline? You put something in the chat too. Evangeline, Karen, and Christine. So feel free to come on into it after Stephanie gives us a little heads up.
Yeah, I just wanted to, with FACC, in addition to representing us in the legislative world, I also represent us in the retirement world. I think what David was saying was super, super interesting with that $25,000 a year. idea. There's also a couple of ideas that the retirement committee's been kicking around. One idea would be to have Social Security as an option at every single campus for part-timers. My understanding is that there's somewhere it's not. And then another idea that was suggested is to have part-timers automatically placed into defined benefits when they actually start working. Obviously, the problem with that is if they don't work for long enough, they don't enter into that pension program. So I just wanted to sort of bring those up, let this group play with the ideas, and open to any suggestions. And FACCC is always, by the way, fighting for the repeal of the WEP and the GPO. We sign on to every letter, we get engaged every year. It's such a frustrating thing. So I just wanted you all to know that we are a part of those conversations.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. And those of you especially who put that as your number one, anybody else? Oh, Evangeline has her hand up, so go ahead, Evangeline.
Hi, this is my first time attending this type of meeting.
Thanks for joining us.
I thank you. So I really just have a comment, I guess, because I don't know how to really engage and answer questions and respond back. But I am a full-time faculty and I was part-time for 3 years. So I do see the difference between the two, and it's not fair because as a part-time instructor, I put in a lot of hours I was not paid for with no benefits. And as a full-time instructor, now I am compensated for it. But it makes a separation between the two classes where I see how part-time don't want to kick in and help the full-time because they have benefits. Like, no, we all like work together. So just to go fast, I was given overload this semester and I was just amazed. Like, why do I have overload? But yet my friend right here, she has no classes this semester at all. So I had to go the back way around, and I just used my overtime that I banked and gave her my days, like 8 of my days. She can come on campus and work as well. But I'm thinking in my head, why would the director just not say, hey, stop you at 100 and give someone else the rest? I don't want to work extra. I'm already working extra to begin with. I don't want it. But I'm happy that I'm here and I'm hearing everything you guys are saying, because I come from part-time to full-time and it's not fair. It's really not fair with the retirement, the pay, all of it's not fair.
Evangeline, where do you, what district are you in?
I'm over at Diablo Valley College at the dental hygiene program. So it's kind of different over there, but it's not, but it is different, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Is it Caroline or Caroline? I'm not sure how you say your name, but you're up next.
Neither one. It's Carlin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's no O.
Oh gosh, I'm just
common mistake. I've been fighting it all my life.
Okay.
Anyway, going back to the lady's idea about automatically being enrolled in defined benefits, I think that would be great. I'm one of the adjuncts that when I hired in way back when, they said, oh, well, you don't get benefits, you're a part-timer. And I had to fight and actually stand at somebody's desk and refuse to leave until they enrolled me in retirement. And then they played games with how many hours they turned in. And David and I talked to a lot of adjuncts in our area. We have found quite a few of them that have been told, oh, well, you're an adjunct, so we're going to put you into, and they choose, they put them into one of the other not so nice programs, not defined benefits. And I like the idea of, no, you're going into defined benefits because that's the best one and that's what we can do for you. The other thing about it is I caution all new adjuncts, if you decide you're fed up with teaching and you want to get away from it, do not take that money out, leave it in, because you may change your mind. So when you made the comment, well, put them in defined benefits, but they may not teach long enough to vest. Yeah, but they may change their mind later on and get those, equivalent of 5 years. So that's my comment about that. The other thing is that I love in one of those sessions where somebody said that when they explained to the overload, to the contract people, hey, when you take overload, that takes jobs away from adjuncts, and then we go collect unemployment. So guess who pays for unemployment? The district. it goes against their record. They may not realize it, but it does. And I've been collecting unemployment now. Well, I've had 2 federal extensions. That'll tell you something, because full-timers took my classes when all the budget cutbacks and it going on to going on to online. So that's the main thing I want to say. And on the 180-day rule, I personally advise all adjuncts, just keep telling them, I'm just going to keep on teaching. My attitude about that, and I retired under STRS because of the money situation. It was becoming too much of a nervous load, wondering if I was going to still have classes. So by retiring under STRS, I have that cushion. I know I'm going to have a steady income, whether I have classes or not, which right now I don't. So, okay. But the point is that 180-day rule just means you can't collect both the benefit, the retirement, and the paycheck. No biggie. You just tell STRS they hold back the benefit until it's done, until you've made that 180 days. But it is such a nice, load off my shoulders, if you will, knowing I had that money coming in, whether I was going to get classes or get bumped. And so I told everyone, I just kept teaching. I didn't break it for 180 days because I was afraid my group, as funny as they are, the school I teach in, that if they didn't see me, they wouldn't think to give me classes, because they tend to give you classes. Whatever classes you had in fall, you'll get next fall. Whatever classes you have in spring, you'll get next spring. I'm not here, you won't get any next year. So that's why I kept on teaching.
Interesting. So, David, did you, from what people have offered and said, do you have any comments, especially about what Carlene said about, the 6 months, that period of time? And you're on mute, by the way, because we're going to kind of wind this down a little bit.
Right.
And move on to the
Yeah.
next
Well,
one.
in my case, I retired in June, so I was on unemployment and collecting STRS all summer, and then I went back to work in the fall, and it wasn't until October that the school told STRS I was teaching, so they held back October, November, December. So I'm not really sure the purpose. I'm sure there's a great reason why they want full-timers not to teach for 180 days, whatever that is. But to impose that on part-time faculty who are retiring on much less than full-timers, it sounds like it should be looked into to see if they can't adjust that somewhat.
Great. And Terry, you put your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what Evangeline talked about, because last spring, I was hired as a LTT, long-term temp, they called it. I was actually full-time, hired as a full-time for just 1 semester. And bottom line is, I now have half as many units, but I'm paid 30% of what I got paid. So that opened my eyes so huge. And unfortunately, now I carry a bit of something on my shoulder, whatever they call that, because I didn't realize how underpaid I really was until I was paid what I was worth. And it's just shocking to me that I can be paid that much less than what I got paid only, for half as many classes. So I think that leads to probably, hopefully we've talked about this in our meetings as well, how can we have state legislation to make us more in line? Because it's just so unequitable. And it just makes me want to not go to meetings, not do all the things I used to do, not go to committee meetings. Unlike Laurel, we don't get paid to be on committees. And I did all that stuff because I wanted to, but now that I see how kind of abusive it is financially, I don't want to anymore. I don't want to go to a bunch of meetings.
Definitely bad for morale. Yes, you're right on that. So let's see. I see a couple people's hands up, and I know we haven't heard from who was it? Was it Dana just raised her hand for?
It's me, David, and Laurel. David, you can go first.
Okay.
Oh, I was just going to say, when people are talking about word parity and equity, for me, I just take, for a full load would be 6 5-unit classes in a year. So I take what I make for one class, multiply times 6, and it comes out to about $40,000 a year. My full-time colleague with 30 years experience is making 110. So my 40,000 versus their 110,000 plus their benefits. I'm just going, unless someone is making twice per hour what I am, which was about $160 an hour, you're not at 80% parity. You're at, down where I am, mathematics, 40%. Unless there's some other way to calculate it. I'm always curious when people say, oh, we're at parity. I go, what would you make if you taught a full load in a year and compare that to your comparable full-timer? And to me, that's what parity should look like.
And Dana, then Oranit, and we're going to kind of segue too into, which it's going to turn to Stephanie a little bit more, but legislation. So Dana?
I just wanted to piggyback off what Terry had said about picking up your long-term temp contract. I had a colleague who did that, and she absolutely screwed herself out of work for another college. She was really looked down upon for taking that position and abandoning her college that she had been at for 5 years to go work at one of the sister colleges. And so when that position was finished, she thought, oh, well, this is a great shoe in the door for a real full-time position. And that full-time position never came around. And so when she tried to go back to the other college in the system that we have in the umbrella, they basically shunned her. And so she lost work altogether within one district. So she went from teaching 9 courses down to teaching 5 and is still in that position today. And she wishes she had never done that long-term temp contract, because it just absolutely rattled her.
So we're down to the last several minutes here. So Oranit, and then Terry, did you put your hand back up, or is it just hanging up there? Okay.
No, it never went away.
Okay, so Oranit?
I just wanted to be really, quick. Terry, I'm sorry to hear about your experience. I think James is your union president, right? When part-time faculty in Los Rios, when part-time faculty do college work, you can apply to be paid, even though it's not a lot of money.
Not for committees, Arnie. You can get a very small stipend for being on the Senate, but not for committees.
Well, it depends on the project. Why don't you touch base with me or with James? Thank you.
Yeah, well, I have to let the dust settle on my frustration before I start jumping back in. Maybe post-pandemic when I'm not always on Zoom. But thank you.
Yeah. Well, this is, again, good discourse, good dialogue. Of course, we can't cover it all, but I think we went in the order of what people wanted to talk about. And here we are nearing the last several minutes. And it kind of goes hand in hand with, I'm going to actually turn it over to a degree to Stephanie, if she doesn't mind, because it sounds like getting our allies, working together with others, finding power in collective action, and the other couple things we talked about, but also legislation may help, because again, legislation can guide policy or force activity. So Stephanie, do you want to, how do you want to do this, since we're kind of running into a little shorter time? Do you want to tell us a little bit about current, or get it together kind of about what we've been talking about and suggest any kind of legislative action that we could go forward with?
Yeah, so why don't I just touch on 2 bills that are current and that this group will be interested in, and then of course I'd like to hear legislative ideas. You kind of summarized the big themes we've talked about today really succinctly, Sally, but I'd like to hear just ideas from this group and see if we can bring this to the Leg Committee for a future bill package. So there are 2 bills that really hit on part-time issues this year. One is AB 375. It's an Assembly Member Medina bill. For those of you who were sort of engaged in the conversation last year, this is the same bill as AB 897, which was a 2-year bill that ultimately failed, not because there was any big problem with the bill, but because COVID required the legislature to kill 80% of their bills. And what AB 897 and now AB 375 are doing is it would raise the number of units a part-time faculty can teach from the current restricted 60 to 65% level of a full-time faculty up to 85%. So about one class more, depending on how your district works. We had to keep it to that 85% maximum because it still like hits below the requirements for healthcare, for health insurance. So it's a little bit, our FAC is a co-sponsor, it's a CFT bill. I know that some part-timers aren't thrilled with it, understandably. As you know, it's just more, but others are very enthusiastic because it allows them more time at a campus. So that's the first one. There is a second one. This is a CTA sponsored bill, CCA sponsored, which we haven't seen in a long time in the community college world. It's AB 1269. It's a Assembly Member Garcia bill. And this pertains to part-time parity. It would require the Chancellor's Office to conduct a comprehensive study of part-time faculty to be finished by July 1st, 2023. And they would be basically collecting and reporting all of this part-time faculty parity data from each community college district. We want this because we really want to show, this is kind of a great first step in showing how massive that divide is between the full-time and the part-time. Right now, it's you all going into legislators' offices and talking about it. It's us talking about it every single year, pushing for more money in the budget. But I think we've all seen how data-driven the Chancellor's Office and the governor are. So it'll be nice to have some, real solid data. So those are two bills. FAC is not formally a co-sponsor of AB 1269 yet, but we, once we go through our normal process, we are expecting to become a co-sponsor of that one.
Any questions for Stephanie, or what, do you have, you didn't ask this, but do you have language, anybody, for a new bill? It doesn't have to be perfect language, but there were a couple of ideas tossed out here today. So
it doesn't even have to be language, just an idea that we can work with, play with.
I would say, I mean, like the fact that David had brought up that his like part-timers weren't able to have their own committee or subcommittee as part of the union is absurd and should be written in somewhere. That I don't know how they can restrict that or break that apart of part-timers being able to organize themselves into their own committees.
That's what they do. Yeah.
Yeah, but that, I mean, what's the, no.
That restriction, a union restriction or a district or a campus restriction?
David, who broke it up?
Oh, the union closed this meeting and opened a new meeting and said you can't come to it.
Because it was wall to wall.
Yeah.
I'm in a wall to wall and we do not have that issue. Yeah. So
I was going to mention that all of these STIRS changes would be legislation also. So perhaps the retirement committee could look at them and then we could work with the ledge committee or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
I like David's idea of the 25,000, anything there or below, you don't take away, you're teaching. So.
Maybe we can run that past the retirement committee, see if what do they think of it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's, a good base to start with a conversation with.
We also wanted to talk about our possible part-time conference, inviting everyone to attend.
You mean wait, say that.
Sponsoring an all-union association conference for all the part-timers groups. As someone mentioned, every group has a part-time committee. Wouldn't it be great to get us all together?
Yes, and like have a caucus or some type of, and maybe even form a task force that visits legislators and approaches the chancellor's office or something.
We could represent 100% of the part-timers in the state.
About 67.7%.
No, all of them.
Yeah. Yes, well,
Stephanie, I'm glad you brought that bill back up because I thought that bill was completely dead. I haven't heard about the 80% in a long time.
It was dead. I mean, it was, yeah, again, it was dead again because, you know, it was a 2-year bill. It was killed last year. So many bills got killed last year, and it was no reflection on anything of those bills. It was just, if it wasn't related to COVID or wildfires or police violence, it got killed. So yeah, I mean, they brought it back this year. So hopefully we'll be able to get it through, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
and kind of along those lines, it is, I mean, it's just a broken record to say this, but it's been very challenging for every aspect of almost everybody's life this year. So we can discuss these and plan for them, and we're getting, you know, we have the light at the end of the tunnel with the pandemic, a dim light, but it's there. But it is a hard time to be asking for things now, because some people are just really focused on, you know, whether they're full-time or a counselor or, you know, an administrator or budget person, they're just trying to survive. So to say, well, you know, we've been trying to do that for a long time. So we have to be, I don't want to say patient, but I think we're smart and to get the gears rolling now so that when things get a little better, they will someday, we can be ready with, you know, some of this legislation wording, or locally. You had 3 great speakers today that gave you good examples to take home to your local district or your local college. And some people are going to be more challenged than others in different districts. And I really feel for those people that have that kind of an environment. But that's where maybe some of this bigger picture, what David was talking about, a caucus or a group or a conference. Okay. Oh, we're going to close in a minute. I thought popping up in front of me here. Yeah. So we're on time? Really? I thought we were running late, but that's pretty good.
It's 3:55.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're a little late.
Sally, can I say one thing real quick to Terry? I started getting involved over 25 years ago at Butte College because I wanted to make my college better when I left than when I found it. And what made me get involved was the fact that the only way you're going to get change is you have to be involved. And when I first started, I wasn't paid. I wasn't paid anything. Okay.
Well, thank you. I'm going to say this, Laurel. We're going to get cut off. So thank you all for being part of this.
Thank you.
Join FACC, not part of FACC. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the speakers, the committee, and everybody participating.